Peters is joining us by Zoom. There are no declarations of interest at the moment, so we'll go to item 3, and the first one is Spraden Cashmere Heathcote Community Board.
No, first is the presentation by staff. Mayor.
It doesn't say that. Now, can people please put up with me, but today my hearing aids are in the garage getting an oil change. And I'm more deafer than I normally am.
What a day. What a day to do it.
So, right, sorry, Pete, fire away.
This is very brief, I hope. It's just a little process reminder on what we're doing with the annual plan. Now, these dates are maybe more than we need, so just accept that some of them may drop off if they're not necessary. I believe you're aware of all these dates, and I just wanted to point out that after the hearings, staff will provide you with an analysis of both what the submissions and the hearings said to you, picking out the common themes. So for those who weren't able to attend a session or need a catch-up, that analysis will be handy. Then the briefing dates to go into the production of the final start in the middle of May, 15th, 22nd and 24th of May. There is capacity in there to deal with commercial or sensitive items. And then we have a backup on the 1st of June to really land the final product. And then the adoption process is through ELT 15th, audit and risk on the 20th, and then council on the 27th. So that's the state of play. As I said, if the hearings don't go as long as needed, some of those dates will drop off and your diaries will free up. Leah will now talk to where we're headed with the financials, just to put the sessions in context.
I get all the good news. So just set the scene. We will, obviously, once we go through the hearings, at the end of that, we will give you an update of where we are as we get closer. But just, there is going to be pressure on our rates increase that was in the draft. There's absolutely no doubt about that. A couple of things that you'll be aware of: the retiming of the Te Kaha spend. You had the presentation yesterday. The positive is that they are, working through, and they are doing what they need to do to ensure they deliver on time. However, that timing will impact us because it will mean that we will start spending some of our money that's on budget earlier next year, so that will have an impact. Increase to the OCR. It was higher than everybody predicted, not just us. That just on its own, the 50 basis points that it went up has had at least a $500,000 impact for next year, and it may change again, so that will be an impact. Now, the living wage, obviously accredited a living wage employer, again at 10%, that is higher than we had forecast, and so we are working through the impact on that. That's obviously not just our direct employees, but our contractors, some of the contracts that we have put in place. So there will be additional pressure on that, so we're just working through that. So these are the things that we're going to impact it. On the other side, we will have other things that we will look at. The growth in the city always usually has a balancing impact, but remembering we did take in the draft a higher percentage than we normally would have, but we will not know those sorts of numbers until we get to the June date. But yeah, so just to put it in context for you.
Thank you, Leah. Sam?
Yeah, thanks, Leah. I just wonder, and I'm sure you've got it factored into the presentations you're going to come back in future, given sort of the talk around inflation and the impact that's having on everyone across the city, can we get sort of spelt out, I guess, the impacts of the last 12 months and what that looks forward for the next 12 in terms of those inflationary impacts on our budget?
You can do that?
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Just around the Te Kaha spend, the retiming, possibly what some people in the public might think is that if that's being brought forward and being delivered quicker, any chance it's going to open any earlier?
No, because a lot of the retiming of it is them buying some of the stuff overseas to deal with the supply chain issues. So it's them actually being ahead of the game to try and get some of the stuff there so that they can actually keep to their time frame. So no, that they're all indications it's not will open earlier, but this was actually making sure it's not delayed.
So then the
Yeah.
question that simple people would ask would be, wouldn't that have been the planning anyway if you wanted to open on time?
No, because it's the challenge into the supply chains that's been happening in the last 6 to 12 months that they're actually trying to go ahead of it, because there's other costs of actually doing that as well. So they're balancing all those needs.
Thank you.
Sam, is it you, Sam? More? No. Okay. Thank you. One thing I do want to say before we get cracking into it, we, as councillors, we're going to hear a lot of stuff over the next next week as well. If one person wants a report on something, I'm going to ask if there's consensus for us to all do a report. Otherwise, staff will be running around like headless chooks doing reports all over the place for one or two people's ideas. So I just want to, if someone wants a report, we'll do just a rough consensus of shall we do it or shall we not. Otherwise, there'll be reports written everywhere. I'm just trying to make things a bit. Hello, Sarah.
That's different to just the normal questions that you'd asked based on the submissions and things, though, right?
And still do questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, if we instruct staff to go away and do a report, which is going to take them one hell of a lot of work and time and effort, I just don't want them to be clagged up with a whole lot of stuff that's not necessary. Yanni, did you have a question?
Thank you. I think we made a request just to get, if it was possible, get a way of looking at the capital program proposed changes in a kind of simple, easy to understand format for the hearings. Is there something that's been provided or?
So there was a memo sent to all councillors late last week, which identified the online tool that is probably the easiest and most effective way to get those changes. We also offered support to sit down with councillors to ensure that you're all able to use the tool. And there's also the draft annual plan document itself.
Sorry, I was kind of hoping to get like an A3 with the changes clearly shown, so that when people are making submissions on like a specific project, we can kind of cross-reference it quite quickly.
All we're doing at this stage is listening to the proposals, and we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
Jake made a good point, but I don't think anyone heard it. So are we talking about consensus, like everybody agrees, or a majority?
for what I said about reports,
Yeah.
well,
Just like a fact.
just get a rough idea. If I'm not saying it has to be more than 50%, it's sort of just let's get an idea of, do we think it's worthwhile going, because all I'm trying to do is not have staff burdened down with a whole lot of stuff that it may be a good idea for a report, but when it actually physically comes to us, we might not read it, or just think, oh well, we know what we're talking about.
A memo could also be an option too, and a lot easier than for staff.
Yeah. Okay. So
Remembering members that you're listening through
we're
the
just
hearing
listening,
process.
and
that's
I'm
what
not
we're
listening
doing.
very well, so we're listening.
You're not making decisions at this stage, and it's not until June.
Okay. So you guys all done? Thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
2 weeks.